This is a period of great transition. There's a seismic shift afoot.
Maybe the biggest revolution since we moved from the horse to the engine.
If I say electric vehicle today, many people think of one name. But many startups want to change that. Rivian, LORDSTOWN, Fisker, Lucid and Canoo are all in a race to release new vehicles.
And it's going to get to be a pretty crowded space.
In 2020, 4 out of 5 EVs sold in the US were Teslas, and most of the others were made by traditional automakers. As analysts project that the market for EVs will grow 140% by 2026, new contenders are pitching themselves as the next big thing. And they have one thing in common.
We haven't sold a single car.
Even though they haven't produced market-ready cars yet, they've secured millions, sometimes billions of dollars in funding. But their strategies are very different, and car analysts say not all of them will survive.
There's probably a little too many EV startups right now.
There's a whole bunch of other wannabes out there that exist because of Tesla who have no concept that this is a technology race.
So how are these companies trying to win the great EV race? Investors have collectively pumped over $10 billion into these companies, with Rivian receiving the most, some $8.2 billion of investment coming from Ford, Amazon and BlackRock. We asked to speak to Rivian's CEO, but the company said they wanted to wait until they'd started production. Lucid is second, with some $7.4 billion.
We're now in a very secure financial position. And it's up to management not to screw this up.
That's Peter Rawlinson, Lucid's CEO. The company recently received more than $2 billion through Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, and also received $4.6 billion through a merger with a Special Purpose Acquisition Company, or SPAC. SPACs are essentially empty shell companies set up with the sole purpose of raising money to merge with another business, and then take that business public. Fisker, too, has seen some $1 billion injected into the company through its SPAC merger with Apollo Global Management. Henrik Fisker is Fisker's CEO.
I think that's great news for everybody, for us and for customers that are looking for new type of vehicles, new technologies, etc.
LORDSTOWN and Canoo have both received less funding, under $1 billion each. But those investors are betting on vehicles targeted at very different customers, ones that aren't necessarily going to compete against each other. Lucid is trying to capture the top end of the market with its high-end luxury $169,000 Lucid Air Dream Edition. Its CEO knows a thing or two about sedans.
I led the design of engineering of Model S. Tesla's premium, it's not true luxury. We see a huge space in the luxury EV space.
They might have some more challenges because you look at those $150,000 vehicles and they're pretty established.
But at the other end of the market is Fisker. They're making an SUV called the Ocean, which will sell for between $35,000 and $70,000. It's made partly with recycled material.
I think most EV startups start with a sports car, luxury car, because they kind of need to prove that they can make a cool car. So they feel that this is necessary for them to do. I don't think we need to prove that. I truly think the next frontier is affordability, value for money, and getting high volume into the market of EVs.
LORDSTOWN, Canoo and Rivian are also targeting the utility vehicle segment by developing pickup trucks and this microbus.
If you want to have a bit of a chance, really, you kind of need to get into that utility vehicle segment because that's what consumers are buying. However, everybody's getting into the utility vehicle segment because that's what consumers are buying.
Before selling these vehicles to consumers, these startups first need to make them. And some of them say they've been held up by the coronavirus pandemic and supply chain issues.
They've missed a lot of their goals. They've missed a lot of their targets. They do jump in thinking it's going to be a little bit easier than it is, or that they can move it faster than they can. And they get into it and realize that there are just elements you can't rush.
When Tesla began production of their Model S, they decided to move almost all parts and manufacturing in-house. And Lucid is doing exactly the same.
Tesla's in a preeminent position because it has hardcore technology in-house. That is why it's worth, $650 billion and other companies aren't.
Rivian and LORDSTOWN, meanwhile, have acquired former automotive manufacturing facilities. But companies like Canoo and Fisker are instead outsourcing their manufacturing to other companies.
Most companies don't get it. They think doing an EV is you just buy all these parts off the shelf and you kludge them together in a Frankenstein, and that's a battery EV.
We are less interested in sort of this ego trip of having to show everybody else that you can manufacture a car. Normally what car industry does is they bring a new car into an existing factory with very trained personnel to avoid any hiccups. And that's essentially what we're doing.
When these vehicles do eventually come to market, you'll be hard-pressed to buy one in a traditional car dealership. Like Tesla, most of these startups plan on selling direct to the consumer, but Fisker and Canoo said they would also offer subscription models, much like some other EV companies do in China.
We see a lot of people, specifically a lot of younger people, are really interested in this, because a lot of young people really don't want to go and borrow $50,000 or euros.
LORDSTOWN, on the other hand, is hoping to target fleet operators with its pickup truck. These vehicles won't only be competing against Tesla. There's also many startups in countries like China, and of course, there's the legacy car industry.
They are also competing against the traditional automakers, and let me tell you, they're woken up and they're serious and they're not messing around. A lot of the things that were considered disruptors are very rapidly filtering through the industry for any kind of vehicle you want to buy, which means the startups don't necessarily have that unique proposition.
General Motors said it's investing $27 billion in EVs and autonomous driving. It plans to make 30 electric models by 2025 and is spending $2.2 billion to convert a factory in Detroit into its new EV hub.
This is a change in trajectory for society and for General Motors.
Other car makers are actually betting on the startups succeeding. Ford, for example, has invested some $500 million into Rivian. But Fisker and Lucid are both betting that they can replace some of those automakers within the next decade.
I think we're going to say goodbye to a few of the traditional car companies that just won't even be there in 10 years. And then I think you're going to see some of those traditional car companies maybe sort of shrink and become smaller.
That change of the order of the guard has already commenced, but there's going to be a continuation of that over the next decade. I think that there's going to be blood on the carpet